Hello again. It's been a little while since I posted a video, and usually my videos are about jazz releases, but this one is going to stray into that other fantastic and amazing American art form, musical art form, the blues. And the blues, of course, precedes jazz, and jazz is steeped in many of the traditions of the blues. Um, and I recently bought a couple of new releases from Craft Recordings. But before I get on to those two blues albums, I kind of want to just go back to where it all began for me with the blues, which was where it began with a lot of um, people in the 80s with the Blues Brothers. And the Blues Brothers, um, particularly the movie, kind of re-established the careers of Aretha Franklin, James Brown. Um, it kind of also reintroduced the talents of John Lee Hooker to the wider public. Dan Aykroyd, a huge blues fan, came up with the idea of the Blues Brothers, and they formed a band with some tremendous session musicians such as Steve Cropper, Lou Marini, Matt Murphy, um, Donald Dunn. And the band is great, actually. And if you've not heard any of the Blues Brothers stuff, I recommend you do, because even though John Belushi's not the greatest vocalist, he does a pretty good job. And Dan Aykroyd's great as kind of backing vocalist, and he does a good job on the mouth organ, actually. But the musicianship's superb, and their renditions of some blues tracks is really good. They're a really good band, really tight. This particular album is called Briefcase Full of Blues, and it's a live album from 1978, recorded in LA. And it's good fun to listen to. It's a really good. You can tell they're having a lot of fun. Obviously, they're two comedians. They're not musicians, but they do a really good job. But Dan Aykroyd, when he came up with the concept for the Blues Brothers, the movie, was really to he wanted to integrate a lot of blues music into that movie, so it became this amazing musical that we've all seen a trillion times, and it really did a lot to re-establish the blues in mainstream music. And it's kind of where it introduced me to that genre, really, when I was kind of into new wave in 1980 when the movie came out. I was into stuff like Blondie and Gary Newman and The Jam, and that was the kind of stuff I was listening to. And it kind of introduced me to a whole genre of music that I really hadn't kind of had much access to. Um, anyway, let's get back to these two Craft recordings. So Craft very recently released John Lee Hooker's The Healer, which was originally released in 1989. Now, I know, I think it Classic Records released this. Um, Probably in the early 2000s, and I know that was going for quite high value. So I think this is probably the first re-release since that. It's a tremendous album, really good. It features collaborations with the likes of Bonnie Raitt, Carlos Santana, Robert Cray, Canned Heat, Los Lobos, Charlie Musselwhite, George Thorogood. In fact, the song which he collaborates with Bonnie Raitt on, called "I'm in the Mood," I think actually won a Grammy in 1989. But if you're new to the blues, wow, what a fantastic introduction to the genre this album is. Very good. Sounds really good, really well recorded. The lacquer originals were cut by Bernie Grundman, and this particular issue was pressed at QRP on 180 gram vinyl. But there's some great tracks, really good tracks. My favourites are probably there's my favourite tracks on side 2, called My Dream. But In the Mood is really good. The first track, The Healer, is really good as well, with Carlos Santana. So yeah, really impressed with that album. And of course, John Lee Hooker was featured in the movie The Blues Brothers. There's also a link to the Blues Brothers here with this album, Chicago, The Blues Today. So this was originally released in 1966, and its performances by the Junior Wells Chicago Blues Band, J.B. Hutto and his Hawks, and Otis Spann's Southside Piano. So this is an all analog mastering from the original stereo tapes by Kevin Gray, a Coherent Audio, and it's great. And there's some great blues tracks on this. And the link to the Blues Brothers is that it has, of course, Junior Wells, his song "Messin' with the Kid," and "Messin' with the Kid" features on "Briefcase Full of Blues" by the Blues Brothers. So yeah, highly recommend these two blues releases from Craft. They're not expensive. I think they were about. I think I managed to get the Chicago the Blues Today for about €30, and John Lee Hooker's album for about 35. Still available on Amazon or any kind of online retailer in your area. So yeah, highly recommended. And tremendous introduction to the genre. So there you go. I've been buying quite a few records this month. There's a couple I want to do a video on which have absolutely blown me away, but you'll have to wait until that one posts. In the meantime, if this is the kind of content you like, then do subscribe and drop this video a like. And in the meantime, thanks for watching, and keep spinning those records.